Hi, hello, how are you? Have you heard the good word of Graven? No. Well, let me tell you.
My name is Abigail, and this is the Essential Guide to Staying Alive. If you happen to find this copy, congratulations!
Now, be a brave boy and don't cry. It's still growing through him.
Then flew one of the seraphims onto me, having a live coal in his hand.
That's all for today's day in the life. Merry Christmas, Dad. I miss you.
Graven is a found-footage horror audio drama set in a frozen post-apocalypse. Follow Adam on an epic journey of survival against unspeakable horrors hiding in the sky. Graven is available anywhere you get your podcasts.
With that aside, I'm Jane Doe, writer of Year of Horror, here to present you with the latest episode of, you guessed it, Year of Horror. This month's genre is ghost stories, which was not a genre I was looking forward to, but I've had an absolute blast writing this one. This episode features several handily altered ghost stories passed down through generations to me, which is a lot of fun, and I really hope that you enjoy them just as much as I did when I first heard them. Without further ado, this is The Body. Hi, I'm Amy. That isn't my real name, and I'm afraid. There's a dead body sitting across from me. I don't know him, but he makes me feel so fucking ill. So frightened. Frightened not like the fear of being chased or like gore or jump scares, but the fear of anticipation. Waiting for something to happen. The fear of sitting next to a drunk person on a train. Maybe it's the least fair fears. It's not anything's fault that you think it might harm you. Well, sometimes it is, isn't it? Sometimes there's signs. Dog whistles that your old friend blows when you change. The way that a cat keeps hissing at you. It isn't hurting you, but it could. I wonder how he died, the man who's sitting across from me. He probably starved. I'm in a cellar here, underground. It doesn't look like it could survive another bomb. He probably tried to outwait the first round of bombings here. I speak to the man now. If you can hear me, know that the cross I'm holding is not a sign of aggression. It's just a precaution. And an expensive precaution at that. 250 quid from some ghost hunting guy. It's branded. Isn't that ridiculous? A branded crucifix. The power of Zero Prey Ltd compels you. I doubt it would do anything to you. It's no threat to you, is my point. I also have candles in front of me and a box of matches. These are so I can see. Please let me have that. I did some reading before I came here. I was told that if I wanted answers, I should go to an ancestral land. I wasn't sure exactly where that meant. My mother's side is more cynical, so there would be less to go on if I went to Yorkshire. So I came here instead. My father's side have so many stories of the paranormal. I don't know if this exactly counts as ancestral land, but my dad's family lived all around Dundee for years. This house was the last place I knew my grandparents to live. It probably isn't supernaturally charged enough. None of the stories I've come to tell take place in these walls, but they're local. It's hard to tell. Everything's so desolate. This place was hit hard by the worst of the bombing some years ago. The whole area is a wasteland. They haven't had the funding to fix anything long term. People still live here though, of course, in tents and ramshackle slums. No, this feels like the right house, if you could even call it that. I couldn't place it, but I know this basement. The walls are familiar. There's a safety here. If I play my cards right, that is. Give you the stories you want. Alright. I'm going to give you 3 of them. One at a time. And after each, you'll answer a question. Confirm that you'll answer me, please. If you're there, spin the ceiling Okay. Great. Where was I? Stories. Yes. So, I'll start with the one my granny told me. When she was very small, my granny lived in a house similar to this one, back when it still stood. The house had 2 floors and 4 bedrooms. One for my grandma, one for her sister, one for their parents, and a guest bedroom. The parents' bedroom was on the bottom floor with the bathroom and kitchen and sitting room. Upstairs was my granny and her sister's bedrooms, as well as the guest bedroom. Now, in the guest bedroom stood a grand piano. Sometimes when the fancy took him, her father would sit at the piano and play quite beautifully, and the house would be quiet, but for the serene playing of her father. But sometimes, when her father was downstairs reading the newspaper, working at the factory, or else sleeping, the house would stand still to the music of the piano for quite a different reason altogether. For, with no one sitting at the piano, still it would play. And such a chilling tune did it play. A discordant, atonal sound that, as my grandmother put it, hollowed the stomachs and hearts of all who heard it play. Sometimes, when enough time had passed between one of these unholy melodies, they would joke that some poor boy with delusions of grandeur must sneak in to bless them with a few notes, or else the 2 sisters would blame each other for the horrible recitals. But when the piano began to play once more, nobody uttered a word, let alone cracked a joke. One day, as she told it, her father came home from work in a particularly terrible mood. He'd been held back at the factory an extra hour due to some union conflicts. As he sat in his chair, he alternated between smoking a large cigar and complaining about work. Just as he had launched into yet another tirade, the piano once again began to play. For a few moments, we all went silent as we had always remained before. But on this particular day, while in this particularly foul mood, my great-grandfather was having none of it. He rose from his chair and marched upstairs, yelling, "Whomever is sitting at that piano better scamper, unless they want me to take my hand off their cheek." Which I always thought was a weird threat. Like, surely the fear of being slapped comes from the fear of the application of the hand violently, not... Sorry, I'll get on with it. Anyway, he marched up the stairs and threw open the door to the guest bedroom. As soon as he touched the door, the playing seemed to stop, but he raged forward all the same, casting about the room to see who was causing the racket. He peered under the bed and tore into the closet furiously. Panting with rage and confusion, my great-grandfather turned to the piano itself as his family watched fearfully. He threw open the hatch of the piano. Is that what you call it? A hatch? I don't know, I've never actually played the piano. Really been up close to a proper one. Anyway, he looked into the bowels of the piano and found... nothing. Nothing except a single rat still scrambling away. He began to laugh, a crazed sound of relief. "What are you laughing at?" asked his wife. "Rats," he replied through fits of laughter. "It's just rats." Once he'd calmed down enough to explain, he told them, "The rats have made a home within the pianoforte. When they step on parts of the innards, the hammers set off, making it sound like they're playing the piano." Once they understood, the whole family found the affair quite funny. To think that all along while they'd been shaky in fear, it had been nothing but rats. Fuck you! You'll get your horror story, I'm not done. You don't need to start throwing things. Jesus, this is fucking insane. This is insane. Well, anyway, the family were able to rest easy for a few months. Whenever the piano began to play itself, they would open up the hatch and scatter some rat poison. When the piano didn't cease its playing, no longer did the horrid tune set their teeth quite so much on edge. It is simply some particularly hardy rats, they told themselves. Nothing more. Now, often, before their bedtimes, my granny's mother would tell her children stories, reading to them from the same books her mother would have read from to her when she was but wee. One of these occasions, my granny was charged with fetching a blanket for her and her sister that she had taken upstairs some cold day prior. She marched upstairs, imitating the bravery of her father despite the hollow, horrible rat music playing from within the guest bedroom. It still upset her stomach despite her understanding of the origin of the music. She fetched the blanket as quickly as she could before turning to hurry back downstairs. Then she paused. She really, truly hated that music, and she remembered the way that the rats had scattered when her father had burst in, so, summoning as much bravery as she could, she folded the blanket over the banister and walked unsteadily towards the entryway. When she placed her hand on the handle, the music did not stop, nor did it cease when she pushed open the door. But she breathed out a breath of relief. Sitting at the piano was her father. "You best not disturb a soul at work," he said, through thick lungs. My granny took a moment to compose herself so that her beloved father wouldn't hear that she'd been afraid. "Are you sick, father? You sound like you're losing your voice." "You best not disturb a soul at work," he repeated. "Sorry, father," she said. "I only meant to check on the rat noises, but I see that you are already busy fixing it." It was at this moment that the downstairs door opened and another entered the house. "Sorry I'm late, sweetheart. The union is in trouble with management again," yelled her father from downstairs. At this, the young girl's blood ran cold. My granny could not move or speak, for she was paralyzed by her fear. As she stood there, stock still, the man sitting at the piano turned ever so slowly to face her. She saw now that she was looking properly, that his hands were strange, his fingers bent at uncomfortable and impossible angles as he continued to play his discordant tune. When she saw his face, she could only scream. His face was concave, his features pressed inwards as if smashed by a hammer. His jaw crunched as it moved, teeth pushed back into the throat, and he spoke with a voice that was distinctly her father's. "You best not disturb a soul at work." He spoke one final time before my granny ran, still screaming, right into the arms of her father, who had run up the stairs to aid or calm his screaming daughter. Unable to understand the source of her distress, he cradled her, even as she beat at his chest in sorrow. My granny never told her father what she saw, never told anyone of it until years later after her father had died. You see, my great-granddad died in a factory accident. After the union had been dissolved, the workplace safety standards had plummeted until they hit rock bottom. When, in 1964, a concrete roller of some kind came loose from the rigging supporting it. My great-grandfather ran in to catch the roller to aid one of his colleagues also in the path of the concrete juggernaut. His colleague was able to get out from under thanks to his help before several more of the same concrete rollers bounded down from on high and crushed my great-grandfather to death. My granny regrets never telling him what she saw. I think she knows it probably wouldn't have changed anything. No cryptic warning would have stopped him. Nothing could have stopped him from saving that of a man. There's your first story. Now it's your turn. My question. I want you to tell me what my granny never told her father. I want you to tell me, how am I going to die? I've told you a story, made the offering, you promised that you'd answer me. So answer me. How will I die? the hell does that mean? Answer me properly.
Burn.
Did you say burn? Damn, that's another question, isn't it? So I'm going to burn. It's not... That's how I'm going to die. I really don't want to burn. They say it's painful, really painful. I don't want to die like that. No one deserves to die in pain. Please. Tell me there's a way to avoid it. There's got to be a way. Now that I know, surely it'll change. That's the butterfly effect, right? Unless you really do know somehow. Please, help me understand. Fine. I guess you want another story then. I have more. Let's see. My great Uncle James used to tell my dad all sorts of stories, most of his design, a few a little older. He was a lovely man by all accounts, but I think he enjoyed scaring the ever-loving shit out of the kids. The one that really stuck with my dad was a rather simple story. It was never made entirely clear to me if James had experienced this himself or if it was one of his older tales, but he certainly liked to tell it as if it was first-hand. So, as it goes, James was walking home after getting shit-faced in the pub. Stumbling home, he'd remarked that the city seemed awfully quiet, given the time of night and the culture of Dundee. Now, it was getting dark, and somewhere through the night James had lost his watch, so he couldn't be sure quite how late it was, and he was growing worried that his wife might give him a proper hard time if he was too late home. So, meandering along the canal, he kept an eye out for any passers-by that might be able to give him an idea of the time. And soon enough, he began to see people. At first, only a few folks dressed in rather outdated garb, such as Victorian nightgowns, and, as he told it, even some folks in full Edwardian dress. He approached one man and spoke. "Sir, would you be kind enough to tell me what time it is?" The man, wearing a dark suit and a bowler hat, only looked at him with deep-set, hollow eyes, with a look of confusion one may have when looking at a foreigner attempting, kind of unsuccessfully, to speak English. As the man began to move past, James made another attempt to communicate, grasping at the man's shoulder to stop his leaving. All he felt was an icy cold chill pass through his fingertips as they passed through the man's shoulder, like there was nothing there. My great-uncle quite understandably gasped and stood in utter shock as the man made his way along. Staring at his hand, James saw his own flesh, where it wrapped around his fingers, grow translucent and begin to come loose, as if it quite ready to slough from his bones. In a panic, James raced onward, ignoring the passers-by. However, soon a handful of odd individuals had grown into a procession of gaunt figures who only grew stranger and more impossible as he went on. Skeleton newsies with bodies as translucent as his fingers ran past and through him, and where they touched him, his flesh grew strange, and he felt himself grow thinner by the moment. Soon he was surrounded by otherworldly presences, all bustling through the streets and through his very body in their incorporeal way. The utter chill was unbearable, and James admitted that he screamed for help. He did not recognize the bridge. It looked old. A toll booth stood flickering, as if a slowly strengthening flame. He ran towards it, pushing through the crowd. By the time he reached the bridge, he collapsed against the wall, spewing into the canal even as he saw a man draped in waterweeds climb out onto the walkway and join the ghastly procession. "All right, sir?" James started at the voice, but kept his composure. He turned round to look at the body accompanying the young voice. A boy, no older than 13, sat on the wall, opposite old James. He didn't have quite such a ghoulish look, apparently, though his eyes were the darkest black, and he wore strange clothes, a tailcoat and a top hat of most absurd height. "I'll live," replied James with no small dose of doubt. It was at this moment that James spotted the pocket watch hanging from the coat of the youth, and his earlier concern rose its head once more. "Now, I've been trying to find out the time. You couldn't take a look at the watch of yours, could you?" "Certainly, sir," replied the boy, "though I needn't bother looking. I know just what time it is." Finally, somewhat at ease, my great-uncle James asked, And what time might that be?" "Dear sir," said the boy casually, "it is time for the dead to be living, and for the living to be dead." James woke at the hospital the next day to the absolute fury of his wife, who did in fact give him an incredibly hard time. But he was too glad to see her, to see anyone properly living again, to be truly upset. The doctors discharged him, but warned him about malnutrition. James got rather fat after that, as his wife worked tirelessly to make sure he was eating properly, as to regain some of the weight he lost so awfully suddenly that one night. I kept thinking about that story as I was making my way here. The city could be so empty these days, I half expected to see a ghostly procession myself. I had no such poor luck, but I did see a bridge across the canal, much like James described. Perhaps it was just obscured by rain, but the booth did seem to flicker strangely, and sitting on the table of that booth, I swear I saw an absurdly tall top hat taunting me. When things started to go to shit, I did think about that boy. I wondered if his prophecy had in fact come true only a few decades late. The dead line the street more than the living these days, and too many who live take on the roles of the dead, rotting away. I have my second question. I've decided I don't want to know any more of the details about my death. I'll just trust that the specifics can be changed, or that perhaps you're lying, in which case all of this work is for null anyway. No. I want to know about the world. Tell me. Will we recover? As a species, I mean. No rush, but I have given you my story.
It will never be the same as it was.
That's a shit answer. Try again. That could mean anything. I know it's not going to be the same again. I could have told you that. But we'll recover, right? The bombs aren't the end of it all. They can't be. I want to know that there will be people and families untouched by the war. One day. But you aren't going to tell me. God damn it. Fine. I have another story for you then. Whatever it is you want with them. This one is, to my knowledge, the oldest story I have for you. Set sometime in the midst of World War II. I don't know how I'm related to the man who sent us in the story. Let's call him great-great-uncle? Granddad? Something. Trevor. Let's go with Trevor. Now, faceless, nameless Trevor was a Navy man. That's all we really know about him. We cannot possibly know that his father died when he was very young, and we certainly would not be able to know the relationship he had with his mum, but she raised him. And I think she raised him well enough to fight for his country. I wasn't raised quite so well, see? Otherwise I'd be out there, wouldn't I? Dropping bombs rather than telling stories. The draft is stricter than ever, and yet, with the world collapsing as it is, it's remarkably easy to disappear. I'm not certain I could bring myself to do what they ask anyway. Faceless Trevor was serving in His Majesty's Navy rather loyally, I'm sure. He was an engineer, not a fighter, and he rarely saw action. Maybe that frustrated him. I know that the lack of violence can inspire quite an annoyance in a young man such as him, serving so proudly. He was alone one night on patrol when he came across the tall, blonde-haired woman. She was soaked from head to bare feet, moonlit nightgown dripping. I'm sure he could only have thought he was dreaming when he saw her. A woman in the early stages of old age looking out across the perfectly calm sea, not a cloud to obscure the stars. She did not turn to look at him, not even when he spoke to her. She just kept looking out, head tilted ever so slightly upwards, looking to the sky. "Mom?" he inquired, half expecting it to be some gag pulled by one of his crewmates to throw him off. He kept expecting her to spin round, tear off her wig and reveal herself to be his mate, Paul, with a square jaw and broad smile. And she just kept looking up and over the sea. "Mom, this is a military vessel. I don't know how you got here, but I'm going to need you to declare your identity," said Faceless Trevor oh so sternly. "There's a storm brewing," said the woman sorrowfully. "You shan't die a hero here." Faceless Trevor took offence. "Mom, who the hell do you think—" he began, taking a hold of her shoulder and spinning her round. Her flesh was impossibly cold to the touch, but that was not what stopped him in his tracks. No, instead it was the woman's face. For Faceless Trevor met eyes with his mother, and he understood that it was the last time he would ever see her. "But, Mother, I came here to the Navy to be a hero. Any death on this ship would be a noble one." Faceless Trevor's mother looked at him, a sadness beyond tears locked deep behind her eyes. Then she said once again, very simply, "There is a storm brewing." And then she was gone. Faceless Trevor tried to rationalize it, I'm sure. Said that the mystery stowaway had thrown herself overboard. It was simply a coincidence that she was such a spitting image of his mother. That was until 2 days later, when they made port at, I think it must have been Orkney, and word got to them by way of telegram. Faceless Trevor's mother had died on the same night he had seen the woman. Trevor requested time off for her funeral. It was granted. It wasn't even the Germans, just a storm. A real, actual storm, plain and simple. A lot of people died that day, but Faceless Trevor didn't. It may not have preserved his name or his body, but he lived another day, said goodbye, and perhaps sired some children of his own. Perhaps with old, Faceless Trevor, there would be no me to tell you these stories. Guess it's your turn again. My last story, my last question. What is it with Freeze? I suppose what I really want to know... was this how it was all supposed to play out?
Ask a better question. The one you came to ask.
And what if I don't have any better questions? What if my only other questions might... Fine. Tell me then, spirit. Is she alive? Did my baby daughter survive? Please, no more games. Just tell me.
No.
Did it hurt? Please answer me. I need to know if my baby suffered. I have more stories. Is that what you want? Surely that rule of 3 stuff can't stop you from doing more. Please. Please. Please make your way to the closest community bunker, or else make your way to a properly reinforced location. This is not a drill. I repeat, please make your way to the closest community bunker, or else make your way to a properly reinforced location. This is not a drill. I repeat, please make your way to the closest community bunker, or else make your way to a properly reinforced location. This is not a drill. I repeat, please make your way to the closest community bunker. Tell me, please. Or else make your way to a properly... Tell me if I'm about to die, please. Tell me, please. If I'm about to die, please just tell me first. I'm begging you. Please. Did she suffer?
No.
I hope you enjoyed The Body. Not Amy was played by me. The Body was played by CthuluDad. The Body was written and directed by me, edited and soundscaped by Tavia, produced by me, all images by Alice Crowley. Thank you for listening. And I'm not going to say next week's genre because last month I accidentally lied. Until then, see you next time. I can't reach the stopping